So about 5 days ago, I put out this video and I thought it was interesting just comparing the difference between North Korea is about to send more troops to Russia, to the Kursk, and they're probably going to be artillery kind of troops rather than infantry. And they might send infantry too, but that's what we know is on its way more than likely. But Iran will not send more help to Russia. And I was worried about this when I was seeing that Russia and Iran were going to conclude some kind of deal, and it looked like it might be a deal with like a military clause like they have with North Korea or they have with Belarus. But Iran's not going for that, and now I understand why. And so, very briefly, let's look at this. This is Anton Gerashenko posted this a few days ago, and this was so. Here is the strategic partnership agreement with the president of Iran, but it doesn't have this clause on mutual military assistance. And you had to ask yourself, well, why would that not be? What's missing, or why are the Iranians not interested in that? Because you know that the Russians are interested in it. Well, it makes sense now. So there's a editorial by an Iranian newspaper journalist, and he was talking about how the so-called strategic partnership agreement between Iran and Russia is decorative and promotional move. Okay, it's not really what they're purporting it to be. Given Russia's track record of non-compliance with its agreements, treaties, and contracts with other countries, the Iranians understand that, like, looking at what the Russians have done, they can't really get into a partnership with the Russians because the Russians can't be trusted. Here's what they had to say. How can one expect Russia, a country that has yet to correct its stance alongside Gulf sheiks and denying Iran's sovereignty over the three Iranian islands, not just once but twice, to align with us in security and defense cooperation? So Russia was from the Iranian perspective, on the wrong side of that equation. But then recently they proved themselves. And this is why I was saying Syria was such a big thing, because Syria really pantsed Russia in a way that they haven't been pantsed since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, when everyone thought that they were just going to roll over Ukraine, and they were blunted, and 1,070 days later we're still fighting. Now, how can Russia, this is the second question, how can Russia, which implicated us in its invasion of Ukraine and left everything to the US and Israel and Syria, confronting us with a fait accompli? Right? Like, think about where Iran was after the fall of Syria, and Russia got out of Dodge, and Iran was left holding the bag trying to support Syria, and they had to flee. How can they be considered a strategic partner for Iran at the regional and global levels? Well, that's a great question. And so they're not actually doing what they purport to be doing. Now, if they were to do it, they would have a longitudinal axis between Iran through the Caspian Sea, up through Russia, all the way to the North Pole and down to the Indian Ocean. I mean, basically down toward the Indian Ocean. And so that would be pretty formidable. But the Iranians aren't going for that because they don't trust the Russians. And with good reason, they don't trust the Russians. They're willing to sell them stuff at inflated prices like Shahed drones, but they simply don't trust them. All right, tell me what you think about this. I think this answers some of the questions here of why this didn't go further, but I'm open to information that you might have that I don't. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.